Oops, hello. It's yours truly again. I'm not really sure why I'm doing this. Very little's made sense the last 2 years. But I'm hoping in some way that would help someone else who's going through the grieving process. This has been unlike anything I've ever had to go through before, especially clean and sober. In the background, you might be able to hear the special DVD I made, or excuse me, CD I made for my dad. It's one of two. It's one I can't really listen to very often without crying, so bear with me. My dad and I didn't have a very good relationship growing up, far from perfect, and it cost a lot. Emotionally and physically, mentally, psychologically. I think part of the grieving process I'm going through now has to do with the relationship I'll never have, but I always wanted. Anyway, this is one of the last, but not really last, one of the photos of us together back in better times. That's about 20 years old, probably. I was more like the black sheep of the family. The odd couple, the one that couldn't make the good grades, the one who barely made it by. My brothers had the perfect body. I always get the girlfriends easy. Seemed to get the breaks. Since my dad's passed, I've realized that appearances may not be like I thought they were. We all have our problems, and whether you have a very body or not, we've all got our issues to deal with. First, I'm going to read 3 things to you. First is from my updated recovery notes, describing how it was. And I can't seem to describe my emotions very well, being it wasn't allowed growing up. I'm sure others seeing this can relate. So, here we go. If I start to lose it, don't worry, I do have Kleenexes next to me. You'll find out why in a minute. The following is going to be one of the hardest things to write about because it's been one of the most painful, life-changing, overwhelming, and confusing 16 months of my life. And not only one of my biggest challenges in my recovery, but also in my life. It is still something I'm dealing with nearly on a daily basis. 2013 began on a fairly positive note. By this time, my dad had been dealing with a stroke for about 8 years, and he knew he had his limitations. He had a major stroke in March 2005, and we weren't sure at the time whether he was going to make it through or not. He nearly died then. My relationship with him at the time was going pretty good, and we all had a good Christmas in 2012. My mom had taken over everything because she had been forced into position after the stroke. My dad had been on this medicine to help prevent another stroke and was in the hospital for various illnesses. We were planning a big family get-together for their 60th anniversary when my mom decided against it due to the fact of my dad's stroke. It wouldn't do much good. So it's just my parents with my wife and I. They were celebrating their 60th anniversary, which today is extreme rarity. I had them sit together in my dad's favorite chair, and I took what became the final photo of them alive. At the time, I had no idea it would be, and this is weird even mentioning it after all this time. My wife and I went over for our usual Easter visit. It appeared that it was mainly holidays when we would show up. Had a great time that Palm Sunday at church before going out to eat and coming home to play cards. My wife told me a few days later that church didn't look that good, that my dad didn't look his normal self. Something was missing. We all enjoyed the great day, and I had no idea when I hugged him and told him I loved him on the way home. It had become the final time on this planet. The morning of April 7th, 2013, saw our world turned upside down when my dad had a sudden brain aneurysm. It was a side effect from the medication that he had been taking to prevent another stroke. He was quickly sent to the Banner Hospital on the west side of town, and my mom called us. My wife had a load of laundry in and was busy doing something. I did not know what to think. We were called an hour later and was told he was on life support, and they shipped him to the very same hospital my wife was in back in 2010. It is now a hospital I cannot go back to, and I have not been back to since in south of here. My mom stressed this time that his time was very limited, and I was trying to explain that I would be there as soon as possible. We eventually arrived, and what I saw scared the crap out of me because I did not know how to feel. We were told that technically he had already died and was being kept alive by this machine. He was bleeding in the brain, and eventually he would keep spreading to his body. I quickly hugged and kissed him, feeling completely helpless. While in ICU, we discovered that 3 guys were going through the very same thing at the same time, to the same meds, which leads me questioning the medication. Yes, I've had my share of deaths and funerals before, growing up, but I was usually drunk or loaded, and that made it easier to get through. Going through all this clean and sober is a completely new experience. First off, my mom had no idea that I was still grieving over my best friend who had died a year before from breast cancer. We had known each other for over 25 years. She was the one that I lived with while I was homeless for a while. She had helped change my mind about females, and I talked with her 3 months prior before she passed away. To further complicate things, my younger brother was also in the hospital in Alabama with only half of his heart working. And we were wondering how to tell him and how is he going to handle it. The last thing we need is 2 deaths at the same time. My middle brother and his wife decided to come over from Arkansas. Instead of flying like we suggested, he decided to drive over, and it takes a day and a half. On top of that, there's a huge death storm outside, so we're praying for a huge miracle to occur with my dad, with all the other craziness going on. My brother finally arrives, and they take a second MRI. The blood has increased to his body. For all intents and purposes, he is legally dead. We have to make a decision. They take us out from the conference room while in the ICU. We decided to remove the life support the second day and have him transported to hospice. Thank God for the hospital chaplain. He was a huge help. I am starting to crack up. By this time, God had worked a miracle, and my younger brother and his family had found out and was comfortable as possible with it and wasn't in any further danger. He would eventually recover from his condition. We eventually get my dad settled in the hospice, which is strangely next door to the very hospital where he went to when he had the stroke back in 2005. The next 3 days were spent making amends with him. We were told that even though he was only breathing, that he had no response or movement, that he was somewhat in a coma state. So you could hear and in some ways could feel what was going on. So I did my best to let him know I did love and forgive him for whatever I could think of. The hospice workers were of great help. It gave us time for my wife and I to talk to each other and for my mom and I to talk, which is a rarity being in now. We tried to talk intimately, but at times it's difficult. On the first night, I am so stressed and tense my body has fallen apart, and it still is today. I am ordered to go home before I end up in the emergency room myself. The second night was spent with my wife and I trying to sleep on the small bed in the hospice, the room. My mom has not let go of my dad's hand the entire time. My wife jokingly wished she had different material to go to, because she got stereophonic snoring. Too bad we couldn't have taken it. My mom never left my dad's side at any time in the hospital or at hospice. None of us would believe that this was happening. I still find it hard to believe it happened. Nearly 2 years later, it's still one of the strangest things I've ever gone through. So many strange things happen inside there at the hospice, and since I don't really have time to get into it. Thank God for the book from hospice, or they'll be putting me away somewhere. On April 11, 2013 at 2:40 p.m., with the song Amazing Grace playing on the cell phone, he took his last breath and went home. I am in shock, stunned, and there are no words saying it now. Unless someone has gone through this themselves, there is no way to describe it. His passing has opened a number of side doors, and I've cried a new river, more like a Russian river. I've lost 60 pounds without trying due to the stress and the confusion. My sleep hours have been really screwed up, and I never felt so isolated. It's not helped one little bit. I've learned like never before to never take anyone for granted, because you never know. Songs that I've heard hundreds of times before suddenly send me into tears.
Carry on.
As soon as he was declared clinically dead and medically dead, a heart failure came in, and I could not stop crying. And I don't think I didn't think I ever would. I even somehow called my boss that I was working, the boss I had at the time, crying my eyes out, and he was very supportive. And thank God I had the week off. I couldn't function anyway. I don't know of many bosses that could do that. Not too soon after this, I got an urgent counselor to work through before I totally lost it. He helped me along with the bereavement counselor from hospice, and I also joined 3 sites online, which I'm still on today, and I'm still working with. He was buried on April 18th, and I had my first ride in a limousine and my police escort. But this is not the way I wanted my first limousine ride to be. Within the first week, I somehow put together a tribute DVD and CD here now, for my dad. To this day, I don't know how I managed to do it. My brother ended up putting that notice in the paper and setting up the military funeral. And getting the paperwork for my mom. Nothing will ever be the same again. I discovered that I care more than I thought, because it's bothered me a whole lot more than I ever thought it would. To this day, I still find it very hard to listen to Amazing Grace. I did return to the hospice recently, the very same one, because I felt I had to, and I totally lost it when I got outside. I don't plan to again. Rarely have I felt so alone as I did at that moment. I questioned life and nearly everything then, while bawling my eyes out. I'm not crying or thinking about my dad's passing every day like I was at first. But it's still one of the many issues I'm dealing with at this very second. Because I found myself going in so many directions at the same time, and I thought I was cracking up. I just started going back to my recovery meetings more often for a while. Then things forced me into another reality where they would be difficult offline. One of the worst things over my dad dying was realizing just how isolated I am in Phoenix. Had it not been for the help from the counselor, my boss, hospice, and those online, there's a good chance I would not be here anymore. One of the positives of 2013 was I met these three guys online and we became good friends. One of them happens to be a counselor. It does with addict alcoholics. We spend hours talking on the phone. And I also would be very grateful to my boss who's been so supportive. He kept constant watch over me when I was working. And I can't tell you how often I cried when I'm sitting there at the desk in the back of the office. I would go see him privately in the office when I needed to talk to somebody. He's the one that led me to the counselor. Thankfully. God set this up because it just so happened to be this guy's also in recovery and 25 years sober. My fellow employees could also tell how much pain I was in and how my body was falling apart. By the time at that time at work, we're in the midst of a huge transition. It was a matter of time before the job was coming to an end and shipped out of the state. That was in January 2014. In September, 5 months after my dad died, during one of my meetings, I get a very bad phone call. A wife of a good friend of mine, known also for 25 years. A friend just passed away, 56, from a major heart attack. And I just talked to him a few weeks before, and he seemed fine and perfectly healthy. That's the last thing I needed, another double whammy. I had last seen him at Vito Fest 98 and in LA, but we had kept in contact by phone. Suddenly I'm outside in the hallway at work, and all of a sudden who should walk out but the company CEO. I told him he was cool, which helped me change my mind somewhat about CEOs. During my next appointment with the counselor, he gave me very good advice. He told me to write down the personal letter to my dad and my friend with the understanding that they were actually in front of me and there would be no lecturing or fighting back. I ended up writing a painful but healing letter, 2 pages to both of them. It was very flinching. I read it in between the chairs to the counselor, and I read it at my dad's gravesite on Christmas Eve 2013, which is not the best day in the world due to that, and I don't like holidays in the first place. All of a sudden I find myself dealing with 3 tests and a job that's coming to an end. It's a miracle of the program and of God that I'm still sober and I made it through. Grieving can take it out of you and it sucks. Thankfully I had a couple of local numbers to call. Wish I still had them, I don't. I had way too much more than I could bear alone. My dad's death did bring my wife and I together for a while. It was a bit closer, but that's ended for now. When one is extremely vulnerable, you'll be surprised what one will talk about. It has changed practically everything. I was going to read the letter that I wrote. I think instead I will just post it online. I've been writing poetry since I was 16. This is 2 of them. two of my latest, and it's about the situation. This is written May 1st, 2014, a year afterwards. The final goodbye. Was it a final goodbye, or a temporary so long? After all this time, it's still hard to comprehend you're gone. I know that you're in heaven, but how do I now handle the pain? While your spirit is being set free, our lives are being rearranged. A year and yesterday since you were taken away. There is no way of knowing what life's going to throw at us each and every day. I recall the last time I hugged you and told you goodnight. I didn't know until 2 weeks later that'd be the final time. Where I left filling that void inside. That fateful day came and you passed away. Your last breath had been breathed on that very day. Your soul went home to heaven while your body was forced to stay. In the box, I last kissed your forehead and held your hand. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced before. As I closed the lid on the box and carried you away, I kept telling myself it was not the final goodbye. No words can account how I felt at that cemetery. I had to accept that God was fulfilling His mission while your body was being carried to His final resting place. While watching Him lower you to the ground, lower you down, tears are falling down to the ground. Friends and relatives, oh how I miss having you around. Days go on, while I continue to feel and cry. I know I'll see you in a better place, and this is not a final goodbye. And the last one is Trail of Tears, written April 4th of last year. No one gets through this thing called life unscarred. Depending on the band-aid used to determine the journey taking you so far. Seems to be in this tunnel in a cave called sorrow. At times wondering how am I ever going to face tomorrow. Things called pain is walking with me. So dark in here I can barely see. Slowly feeling my way through a river of water back to the Trail of Tears. Yes, I've seen the rain. The trails left water running down along the way. The tears will hopefully stop someday. Wading through the puddles, praying for the sunshine rays. Does anyone know that the water is not rain, but tears that come down, crashing down on my face? Everyone ends up with choices and unplanned paths. If given a choice, this trial would have been one of the best. The one we prefer not to see is the Trail of Tears, yet in this world we walk through them for years. Someday the water will dry up, and I'll end up back on the path called reality. So the waters don't overcome me with the flood, I must find a way to be free. I'm wading through the tears in this somewhat darkened maze. Soon I will find the way. Now somehow I miss this thing called time. It'll be a better day. Again, I'm going to save the letter to post online. What I've learned from all this is life is full of first. I have, this may sound strange, I have seen my dad physically in his body. I felt his touch. I've heard his voice. and even a white dove showed up out of nowhere at the cemetery, circled us, flew 50 feet forward, and disappeared. And I'm pretty sure that was a sign from God, or my dad. The main thing I learned from all this is don't take anything for granted, or anyone for granted. And if you don't have a perfect relationship, try to at least get on even terms. You don't want to have regret afterwards. Like the song about Michael Mechanics, it's too late, the 11 years end. Like James Taylor said, I thought I'd see him again, but I won't. Okay, anyway, I don't know why I'm doing this, but maybe it will help someone else down the road. Okay, go, bye.